So good morning everybody across the world. We're delighted to welcome you to the SDG Media Zone and to Goals House, courtesy of SAP. We're here at Cannes Lions. It's been a fantastic week talking about how the world of business is going to project itself in the world, and we're here with this fantastic panel to talk about how sport intersects with the global goals and how we can see societal change happen, and what role does sport play around education, health, inclusion, and all these significant social issues we can see behind us with the SDGs. I've got a fantastic panel joining me today. So I'm delighted to welcome Damien Foxall, who's one of the greatest offshore sailors in the world, 4 victories around the world sailing. We've got Maijen Gilmartin, who a lot of people will know within our sector, who delivers the Global Goals World Cup. And I'm delighted to welcome.
I'm just going to say that Nick and I, we've known each other for some years now, right? And he keeps calling me Maijen, and my name is Maijen. Just
did I get it wrong again?
It's unbelievable.
I've known him for 10 years, he's cognitive decline. He's got grey hair and the brain is not following.
I've spent the last 24 hours practicing and then I got it wrong first off, so there we go. And so also Olivier, Oullier, how have I done there? Who's president of EMOTIV. So look, it's an amazing conversation we're going to have. Karel's going to be joining us from the advertising agency that brought us Colin Kaepernick, so we'll welcome him when he arrives. So first of all, I'll just like very quick question from it. What's the most powerful sporting moment that you've seen that you felt change is coming? What moment have you been involved with or witnessed you thought, this is different?
Is that for me?
Yeah, it is. It's going to be for all of you.
Okay, well I'll lead out. So I mean, as a sailor, and as a sailor who's participated in 6 Vol Ocean races, the ocean race around the world non-stop, the longest event in any sport in fact, we've integrated sustainability significantly, really right at the heart of the operations, right at the heart of the event over the last edition. And in fact, our team, Vestas 11th Hour Racing, participating in the last race, really had sustainability at the core as part of our ethos. Now, the ocean race reaches out to a huge global audience, so despite the fact that we're a small sport like sailing, the sport in the ocean race context is huge. We really have an audience of billions of
This is
people.
a 30-second answer, by the way.
Okay.
So, what's that moment? I'm looking for inspiring moments of change, not a business plan.
Okay. And so, really when we're thinking about the ocean race as a stopover with 2.5 million visitors coming to the start of the ocean race, that's the moment when I see that and look at sustainability at the forefront of our engagement with that amount of people and see our sport making that change, that's the moment.
Okay, lovely. Maijen.
So, I mean, in a sense, I had 2. I've seen now over the last few years that we've seen in the world of running, track and fields, where they have their elite runners go out, but then they invite the entire cities to run together with the elite runners. And I think the magnificence of a city experiencing that and the people there cheering on everyone. So I love that. And then, of course, I mean, we are here in France, and there's the Women's World Cup happening right now. And I think for the first time, I think every woman that works or touches the world of women's sport, or any sport in a sense right now, are experiencing the sense of we are together in this one. So we have to support each other in this one.
It certainly feels different from 4 years ago.
I went and watched England and Japan last night, and it was just that, I was like, yeah, everybody.
How many people in the crowd, do you think?
Maybe 20,000. I think actually Nice has the smallest amount of crowd because Nice is, a different city, but going into Paris right now is packed, and going into Lyon is packed, so it's
great stuff. Big steps forward. Big steps forward on SDG 5 and gender equality.
Sure.
Olivier, you're doing some remarkable work, but let's hear what you feel is shifting things.
3 days ago, I was in Marseille, France, just to celebrate Father's Day with my daughters. And the day before, there was a performance of a Rite of Spring, where 300 people have worked for a year, 20 groups that got together and delivered the 35-minute performance of a Rite of Springs. All age, all physical condition. It was beautiful. At the end, someone blasted a song by Earth, Wind and Fire, and the whole audience joined the performers and everybody danced together. People grabbed literally some people that were in wheelchairs and danced with them. They bumped into wheelchairs without apologizing, which is basically no one saw any difference. It was the most inclusive dance floor I've ever seen in my life. Again, all ages, kids, grandparents, that was amazing because it showed that when we talk about inclusion and when we talk about the goals, the fact that not paying attention to the difference or not even considering it a difference is we've made progress. We've achieved something where, of course, there's so much still to do, but that was so beautiful. The fact that people didn't care, it was just incredibly, joyful and full of happiness.
Well, it's the interesting thing because actually, you refer to it, we're referring there to the numbers. You talked about the amount of people engaged in it, and that's what sport, I suppose, brings to us here, doesn't it? We've got this captive audience that really understands it all. And so what a fantastic platform it can be to talk about some of the challenges the world is, but also more importantly, sport is one of those solutions, isn't it? So, Maijen, you've been working in communities across the world, you've been promoting the global goals. You're seen as a bit of a pioneer in this space for taking it. Explain very quickly how that happens in 30 seconds, because we've got about 5 minutes left. So.
I mean, we were all challenged by the UN when they were going to implement the goals, and we were really trying hard to see if we could get physical education under goal 4, because that would really mean that 65 million girls around the world had to have access to sports through schools. We didn't succeed in that, and then we were looking at ourselves, like, okay, we are a sports organization. If we should help drive change, how do we do it? And it was like, what do we really want to do? And I was like, okay, let's make a World Cup. But if you have to make a World Cup where it tells about the goals, then we said that you have to pick, to qualify into our tournaments, you have to pick one of the goals, and you have to do your action for that goal to qualify into our tournaments. And it is, the world of sports, we say that you have to practice 10,000 hours for you to be good at something. And now we're just turning it around and saying, okay, in our sports event, our Global Goals World Cup, you have to practice hours and hours and hours and getting good at activating for the goals for us to be good at it, and we just do it in
Damien, you've got that 2 million people, or however many people you're engaging with. Sailing's not seen as the most inclusive sport. Sometimes, it's seen as a slightly different space than real sport. But it sounds like you've got this amazing platform for education. Do you feel that you're using it in the right way?
Yeah, I think we've really started something iconic, I would say. I mean, through STEM, for instance, there's a really tangible link between, in this case, the Ocean Race Sustainability Education Program and the community they reached out to. So over the last event, that was thousands of kids over 38 different countries and in multiple languages. So that's just a fantastic example of how a specific targeted program using sustainability and the UN SDGs can reach out to a vast demographic.
And are you finding that you're engaging young people or older people? Are you getting to the demographics that we need to?
When we were thinking about education, we were thinking about youth.
Yeah.
And of course, that's a fantastic key group to reach out to. That said, it's valid across the range.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important for me. We think about youth as being the future, and it's really important to speak to them. But we have a responsibility today as leaders to promote sustainable actions going forward.
For me, it's about how can we link those of influence in the world today with the Gen Zers to make sure we create the right pathways towards their purpose-led views becoming more action-led. So finally, I think we've got about 2 minutes left. We talked about STEM, science, technology, engineering, maths. And you work with around brain technology, around analysing how the brain is functioning under pressure, how the brain, as we look at quality education, as we look how young people are engaging with social media, etc. How important is it for us to understand things like sport in terms of bringing community back together again?
I think there are multiple levels. We started to work with professional athletes, Formula One drivers, and to understand how they manage to control their impulses, how they get in the zone, how they manage stress. From there, we use these findings from collecting thousands and thousands of brain data to understand how this can help people in the workplace. But the next step for us was to go in the classrooms. And we launched at the beginning of the year a partnership on STEAM, because it's not just science, technology, engineering and maths, but there is arts in it, where basically we're leveraging neuroinformatics, behavioral sciences, in order to foster a lot of aspects of what the kids need to be understanding and skills they need to develop themselves, and sports plays a key role in that. I started as a phys ed teacher, then I studied sports sciences and neuroscience. But it's so important to be able to connect this, the whole body and mind thing that everyone's been saying for decades. We finally can do it because we got the technology to understand the brains. And in a world where everyone is claiming we need to do human-centric design, human-centric education, we can finally do it thanks to technology, and technology that is affordable. And this is totally aligned with the novelty of goal number 3 and the fact that it's not just about physical wellness, it's also mind and brain wellness.
So I'm going to ask one more question, but for you guys, it's what are your hopes for sport? What are your hopes for over the next 10 years on how you can see sport really connect with the SDGs and really engage the broad community, the broad load of stakeholders it does? What are your hopes, very quickly? And
I think from our side specifically, when we look at our sport as a blue-green sport, we need to also start to operate sustainably and look at the technology requirements for our sport, the logistical set of requirements of our sport, and to start to operate in a neutral.
Because of course, sport's a great platform for communication, but actually it's got to clean up its own active
We have to operate sustainably as well.
Yeah, I mean, so I will say yes to that one, and then I'll just add on to that. And also for the sports world to understand, they reach kids early, but we also super affected if we don't reach the goals by 2030. So,
absolutely.
You know,
Very good point.
It will be too warm, it will be too complicated, there will be too many people in refugee situations that won't have access to sport. And again, I don't think if we innovate to the world without movement, then we're going to have so many, I mean, goal 3, whatever problems in health. So movement is...
Great stuff, really interesting.
I am totally with you. For me, it's motion and emotion, and access to sport is the key thing, because if people don't have access, and I think, Nick, what you've been doing for more than a decade now has been leading at the global level in terms of access to sport in order to, I mean, your organization, Beyond Sport, the name says it all, and I think we need more Nicks and more Beyond Sport in order to provide access.
My wife wouldn't say that. So look, quickly, I'm going to wrap up. Thank you very much for joining us for this session. I think we've been quick, but we've been interested. I'm going to give one observation. It's amazing how the conversation has drifted between community, youth and innovation. And I think when we're looking at some of the solutions here, we've got to realise that actually those are 3 very important qualities to bring together.